Hi, my name is James Green, and the story I'm about to tell you is going to blow you away about how one man beat Eastern Savings Bank in court in Brooklyn, even after the bank had got judgment of foreclosure and sale. Let's face it, Eastern Savings Bank sucks. And while we're at it, let's keep it real and admit that their evil sidekick, Kriss and Feurstein, suck as well. Did you know that Jay-Z's business partner and Rockefeller Records and Rockaware was foreclosed on by Eastern Savings Bank? He lost the Manhattan loft in Tribeca in 2008 as a result of a $3.8 million loan that he got from Eastern. Also, this particular loan had a high interest rate, and if he could, it would probably be predatory lending if he had good lawyers. If you're viewing this website and video, you want to know the story about how one Brooklyn resident finally beat Eastern and got his foreclosure dismissed with prejudice with my help. In August of 2006, Greg Jones refinanced his home with Eastern Savings Bank for $700,000. His house was located in the Fort Greene section of Brooklyn and was rising in value. According to appraisal, it was worth $2.1 million at the time. The loan he took out with Eastern had a beginning interest rate of 12.99%. For some strange reason, though, at closing, Eastern Savings Bank took $140,000 of the loan proceeds. His original loan was for $530,000 with Immigrant at the time, and I think the difference between the two was about $140,000. They called it interest reserves or collateral for something. His payments went from $3,800 a month to over $7,000 a month. Can you say, damn, that's over 100% increase in your payments? The purpose for him refinancing was to get cash out, but apparently Eastern had another plan. They misled him and said that they would use the interest reserves to help him pay for a mortgage of $7,000 a month and then refinance him at a lower rate in a year so he can pull out more cash. Even though Mr. Jones had a $140,000 cushion to help him pay for his mortgage, somehow he fell behind and was having serious problems paying his mortgage of $7,000 a month within near a year's time. Does this sound familiar? On October 13, 2008, Eastern's lawyers, Kriss and Feurstein, sent him a letter saying he was late on his mortgage. And if he did not pay $56,000, they would begin foreclosure proceedings against him. Never mind the fact that they never gave him an account for where that $140,000 in interest reserves went. 90 days passed, and Mr. Jones failed to pay, and Eastern began foreclosure proceedings on January 19, 2009. Unfortunately, he hired a lawyer who knew nothing about foreclosure defense. And to make matters worse, he failed to submit an answer for his clients with the courts. The loan that he had was usurious, according to New York state laws, or that the 90-day notice that Eastern sent on behalf of Kriss and Feurstein was defective. For some reason, lawyers always want to do the lowest amount of work for the most amount of pay. I'm just kidding. If there are any lawyers reading this, I'm just kidding, but you guys know there are some lazy lawyers. Now, I don't know about you, but it's common sense if you fail to submit an answer with the courts against a bank or anyone, you pretty much lost because you're saying that everything they said is true. There are some exceptions to this, though. Eventually, the lawyer against Mr. Jones convinced him to sign a forbearance agreement where the bank agreed to lower the interest rates on the loan, but they would roll the back payments into the loan, and that they would stop the foreclosure proceedings temporarily. Does this sound familiar? The lawyer screwed up again, though, because he didn't negotiate for Mr. Jones' case to be discontinued with that stipulation. The new rate and the loan amount became impossible to bear, and eventually the proceedings on the same case began again in court, within 4 months' time, I believe. Fed up with this lawyer and feeling he was not in a good position, he hired another lawyer to clean up the stuff the first lawyer did to screw him. Unfortunately, this lawyer was still ignorant to any defenses of usury and a defective 90-day notice, but he still had to pay a whopping $5,000 up front to represent him. Isn't New York great? It was like as if Eastern was picking the attorneys to represent the borrower themselves in order to foreclose on homeowners easily. Personally, I think some of the lawyers who represent borrowers against Eastern are bought off by Kriss and Feurstein, but that's an entirely different story. Eventually, the judge was forced to give the bank judgment of foreclosure and sale because he had not presented the court with any real defenses to stop them. That is until me, of course. Greg Jones was worried after this. He and his wife had lived in this house for 15 years, and they thought they were going to lose it all. They were approaching 60. It was too late for them to start over again. He was severely depressed and prayed to his Father Almighty to get him out of this situation. One day while reading the mail, he saw my letter and called me immediately. He said, "Mr. Green, I'm in foreclosure with Eastern, and I had a lawyer, but felt the lawyer was not aggressive enough in my matter, and that I've lost the case via judgment and sale. He told me something was wrong, but he could not put his finger on it. He told me what had happened at closing, and that even though he refinanced the house where the previous loan was $520,000, the bank took $140,000 at closing, and that he had to come to closing with money. I told him, let me see the documents, because I've never heard of a loan with those characteristics. We eventually learned that under New York law, the amount of interest collected by Eastern in the first year was over 35% and considered criminal usury in New York. He called his attorney immediately to tell him the good news, but for some strange reason, he would not return his calls, nor would he said whether he would put in a motion to vacate the bank's judgment and sale. He paid this attorney $5,000 and the other one $7,000, and he would not give him the decency to put a motion or show up in court for his client. Personally, I believe this is racist and the attorney should be disbarred. We immediately prepared papers to submit to the court based on the information we found and sent a copy to his attorney because he was supposed to put in his defense in court on behalf of his client. Eventually, he was forced to put in a motion pro se, meaning by himself. But Mr. Jones, he didn't sweat it. He just wanted his house back. And he told the judge what happened between him and his attorney. The judge called his attorney immediately and asked him, why the hell was he not here with his client? To make a long story short, because, that was a long, drawn-out, etc., and a rather hilarious scenario in court, the judge stopped the sale. He analyzed the papers Mr. Jones put in pro se and took over a year and a half to make a decision. When he finally did make a decision, he ended up ruling in favor of Greg Jones. And Eastern lost their right to collect on the judgment because the loan was usurious. See, I'm convinced that most of the loans that Eastern is trying to foreclose on between October 2008 and December 2009 are similar to Mr. Jones's and can possibly be thrown out even if your house has been sold at auction, because the bank's loans were criminally usurious, and it's a well-known fact as well as public policy that the court can't give a judgment to a plaintiff if they committed an illegal act prior to, or they failed to meet what's called a conditions precedent, such as when Kriss and Feurstein sent a defective 90-day letter to Mr. Jones instead of Eastern. I say this with confidence because Eastern and Kriss and Feurstein skipped steps to move a foreclosure quickly, and they were getting away with these mistakes until a few knowledgeable people like myself and a couple of knowledgeable attorneys exposed this to judges. While I can't give you any guarantee you will win your case or get your house back because I'm not a judge, heck, I'm not even a lawyer, nor did I claim I was. You owe it to yourself and your family to at least see if you have a chance to defeat Eastern and win your house back. While my services are not free, I think we can both agree that the bigger risk of losing your home costs a lot more than doing nothing. Fill out the form to the right and someone will call you shortly. Thanks. P.S. Eastern is scum of the earth, people. Let's beat them together. Take care. Bye-bye.